What's up, dudes? Max here. Oh man, so yeah, a lot of stuff happened today. The biggest one and the biggest news is obviously the PS5 Pro, and I've already seen the memes. It's pretty bad. A $700 system is insane. Is actually insane. But I want to look at this entire presentation. I want to take a look at it, evaluate some of the things or reasons why they're justifying that expensive of a system nowadays, and also see if there's any reason at all to actually be excited about this PlayStation 5 Pro. I'm inherently a little excited. I heard stuff about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth being better. So before I get into it, before we start like evaluating, let's just watch the technical presentation from Mark Cerny so I can have an idea of what the hell's going on.
Hi, I'm Mark Cerny. I'm excited to be here to talk about the newest addition to our console lineup, PlayStation 5 Pro, and how it advances gaming technology. But first, I want to take just a minute to look at what we put in the original PlayStation 5 and how it delivers an exceptional game.
A bunch of beeps and boops.
When PS5 debuted in 2020, it brought a lot to the table. 8 Zen 2 CPU cores form the brains of PlayStation 5 and enable high-speed complex gameplay, with character counts reaching into the hundreds.
Let's put this at 4K.
And frame rates that can be as high as 120 frames a second. PS5 has a powerful RDNA 2 GPU, which can render anything from intricate details to fantastic worlds with vast panoramas to explore.
PS4 game.
Ray tracing allows for dramatic visual improvements, including reflections off of water or glass.
Damn, the performance of this game though, wow.
That comes from real-time global illumination. A custom SSD can load data at breathtaking speed, resulting in ultra-fast transitions between game worlds and data streaming rates so high that traversal speeds are essentially unlimited.
You okay? I'm working on it!
Tempest 3D audio tech brings an unparalleled sense of immersion to the sound of the games. With
Demon Souls
so
clips.
real, you may not even need to see
forgetting
the enemies
that-
to know exactly where they are.
Forgetting that this was actually a PS5 game.
Finally, the DualSense controller has haptics that let you feel through your hands what your character is experiencing inside of the game. It's wonderful to see such variety and richness of game experiences. Creators have made amazing use of the hardware capabilities, but when I talk to them, I do hear about their desire for more graphics performance. The dreams of the developers are bigger than can be supported at 60 frames per second, and that leads to an aspect of modern gaming that we're all familiar with: graphics modes.
Okay.
It can be a difficult choice.
Specifically talking about FPS mode and stuff.
Fidelity modes emphasize the visuals, typically through higher resolution rendering. These modes might also have enhanced detail or use more ray tracing. But the games only run at 30 frames per second. The visuals can be choppier, and the controls less responsive. Performance modes emphasize frame rate and interactivity, typically choosing to run at 60 frames per second.
Usually
Mainly by
bump down to like a
reducing the graphical
1080p.
detail until those frame rates can be achieved. When asked to decide on a mode, players are choosing performance about 3/4 of the time.
Wow.
Removing that decision, or at least narrowing that divide, is one of the key targets for PlayStation 5.
Huh. That's a
We
crazy
want to give
stat.
players the graphics that
3/4?
the game creators aspire to, at the high frame rates that players typically prefer. To do that, PS5 Pro substantially improves over PlayStation 5 in 3 ways. Here's what we call the Big 3. First, we made the GPU much larger and increased the speed of the memory it uses. The result is rendering that's up to 45% faster.
That is a big deal.
Second, we made major upgrades to the ray tracing, taking a streamlined and accelerated approach that allows calculation of the rays at double or even triple the speeds.
We
of
are still doing
PlayStation
this.
5. And finally, we added custom hardware for machine learning and an AI library called PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or
This, I'm curious to
PSSR.
see how this actually performs.
PSSR analyzes the game
In
images
person.
pixel by pixel and can add an extraordinary amount of detail, which boosts the effective resolution of the games. Game creators are adding PS5 Pro support to new and existing titles, and with the big 3 involved, the results can be pretty amazing, with graphics showing something like fidelity levels of detail, but at double the frame rate. Here's The Last of Us Part 2 running on PS5 Pro. It has huge amounts of detail and targets a super smooth 60 frames per second.
So we're showing off.
Compare this to the
We are. Damn, the bitrate on this video kind of sucks. We are showing off high resolution, but with FPS now.
fidelity mode on PS5, which is only running at 30 frames per second and is therefore much choppier.
That's cool.
This
Okay.
goal of delivering almost fidelity-like graphics at performance frame rates has been achieved for a broad set of titles, including
So the big difference that they're pitching here is that you do not have to make a substantial compromise. You don't have to effectively take off your glasses to get 60 FPS, which has sort of been the case.
Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. We can see that PS5 Pro is close to doubling the power of PlayStation 5. Another way to compare the two consoles is to look at PS5 Pro versus Performance mode on PS5, both of which target 60 frames per second. What we see here is a difference in detail. PS5 Pro is much sharper and crisper than PS5.
Buddy.
For this,
I mean, I get
my
it.
favorite is the parade.
I mean, I get it, but this, I mean, I've been saying it time and time again, but this is the absolute defining era of diminishing returns. And if there is not a screenshot that can define that element more than ever, it is this. That you are going to spend hundreds of more dollars for the difference of this.
Parade scene from Ratchet & Clank. Distant details are much clearer.
Wow, dude. Okay.
And here we can see Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is noticeably higher resolution throughout the scene.
It's going to be
including the
nice.
trees
I mean,
and
don't get me
procedural.
wrong. Yeah, that is nice. It is something that like a lot of people complain about, but you know, is this sort of defining? It reminds me a lot of the PS4 Pro, where like the PS4 Pro just allowed for slightly higher resolutions and slightly higher FPS every once in a while.
Cars.
Diminishing returns,
So
though.
overall, some remarkable improvement to the games. On PS5 Pro, we can see increased sharpness to the graphics or smoother and more responsive gameplay. This is the big three showing their value.
And it's funny how like all of this stuff kicks in, and this is the difference. Like we are in the era of diminishing returns, like straight up. Like games can only look so good. Like, and this is now what it's going to cost you to push that envelope to this point, to get it to look that much better. This is what it costs, you know?
As you've been seeing, machine learning via the PSSR library is being used quite broadly to add pixel detail and boost frame rate. But there are as many approaches as there are game engines. The increase in raw GPU power is being especially effective for Horizon Forbidden West. Apart from the detail boost, that extra graphics power is allowing
very
for
nice.
improvements to lighting and visual effects,
Looks very nice.
as well as to the hair and the skin in cinematics.
Open up, guys. Jorv's orders.
Good enough for me.
Ray tracing is finding broad usage as well, particularly when the games are focused on higher frame rates.
I have
The
some
faster
criticisms of this
hardware in
presentation.
PS5 Pro can make a real difference. Allowing Gran Turismo 7 to add ray-traced reflections between the cars in gameplay, while continuing to support their targeted 60 frames per second.
I think it's very weird that this presentation and what it's using to demonstrate the power of their mid-generation upgrade is almost, I mean, is literally entirely just using old games. And not even like recent games, like games that have been out for a while.
Boost in ray tracing is also
You would
delivering
think
big
that they would
wins for
show like
Hogwarts
new
Legacy,
games, like something
allowing
new.
not only for better
And here's how
reflections
good it
and a
looks on
greater
the new
variety
system.
of reflective
I think that's way
surfaces,
more
but
appealing.
also for further realism in the casting of shadows. I hope you've enjoyed this run-through of the technology behind PlayStation 5 Pro. Simply put, it's the most powerful console we've ever built, and a worthy addition to the PS5 family. Let me wrap this up by giving you a quick look at a number of games running on the new console.
Yeah, is Rebirth gonna be in here? Do we actually get to see anything? Oh, that's an ugly goddamn console, dude.
Don't let me hang it.
Hey! I think I owe my chat gift subs. Man, those were not the best examples.
Close your eyes. It'll be worth it.
Okay.
Demon Souls bumps. A lot of first party stuff, you know? Obviously.
What's with all the neon?
Oh, there's some new stuff. This is the new Assassin's Creed game. Damn, some stuff's still running at 30. I wonder if that is the whole point, right? If like the whole point of this stuff, of this generational upgrade, is just to give you higher fidelity with actual decent frame rate. But it's funny that they would show games still running at 30, you know? Woof, dude. Yeah, and I was hearing like the stand is sold separately. You can get an add-on for a disk drive. It has no disk drive, so it's technically a downgrade, right? Except, you know, the internal components are clearly better. Like all the GPU increase and all the extra stuff. I just don't believe it. Like, I don't know how that seems feasible. I think that, I almost start to ask the question, like, who's this made for? Based on that type of upgrade. Is that worth it? Even if you trade in your system, it's still going to be like a $400 difference, right? What is that worth to that many people? It feels like it's almost made exclusively for like super upper echelon owners looking for an upgrade, or like content creators. It's like people that have YouTube channels, people like me, who are obviously going to like bite into this shit, but at the same point, the whole idea of us biting into this shit is so that we can show off what you're actually getting. So that if you're looking forward to this, or you are not looking forward to this, you can look to us and the stuff that we make around it as a barometer of like, well, here it is. Is this worth $700? Is this worth, like, even if you sell your PS5, a comparative like $400? That is so fucking expensive, dude. This is like some Neo Geo prices. And it's a video game console. Damn, bro. Like this, I don't know. This does start to come across as arrogant Sony. And I wouldn't even be surprised if a lot of the components in here are being sold at a loss. I could see that even happening, that some of this stuff might indeed not be fully comparable price. Like if you price all the components out, it might even be more expensive. But that's kind of just what happens. You know, when you're at the upper echelon of hardware, the point is to get the hardware into people's hands because you're going to make money on all the software. So if this is selling at a loss, that's crazy. That would be crazy. I don't think it's selling at enough of a loss. I think $599, effectively matching the PS3 price point. Dude, and I just realized how disappointing this is. Instead of talking about the price, let me discuss something, what I think is the problem here. I think what was shown comparatively from what the PS5 can do to this does not warrant that price upgrade, straight up. However, I think some things do. It came to me as soon as we talked about the PlayStation 3, and the PS3 was $599, right? Like a super expensive system, the premium PS3 at launch, right? So this is beating that by a lot. However, the PS3 has elements about its functionality that almost warrant that price to a certain degree at launch. The launch PS3 is backwards compatible with 3 generations of PlayStation. And that is so many thousands of games that it will blow your mind. Like, I still argue the PS3 is one of the launch PS3, like the 60 gig, is one of the greatest video game systems of all time. Outside of like, you know, issues with hardware. If it works and it still works, dude, every PS1 game, every PS2 game, every PS3 game, and it all actually has native hardware inside it. It's not running on emulation. Those games just operate. It just plays PS2 games. It just plays PS1 games and all your PS3 games. It's actually remarkable. Imagine a scenario where Mark Cerny came out and talked about ray tracing and their DLSS and everything they mentioned here. Imagine if he also was like, and it's fully backwards compatible with every generation of PlayStation. Granted, it would need a disk drive to even for that to even be a reality. It would need a disk drive. In that situation, right? I'd imagine a lot of people would be like, well, shit. If this played your PS1 games, your PS2, your PS3, PS4, and PS5 games, if it had the capability of doing so by whatever means, emulation or whatnot, if you stuck a disc in, the game went all right and played it in a similar way like an Xbox does with the majority of that library going back to original Xbox. Granted, it's not everything. It's not every single game. Even if it had that level, like a 75%, 50 to 75% compatibility with the majority of old games, if that existed, I would argue that a price point like this might actually be worth it. It would need a disk drive. There's an argument to be had there because, dude, your PS5 Pro has now replaced 20 plus years of hardware. Like almost 30 years, right? 30 years of hardware, which would be crazy. I think that'd be kind of amazing. And not only that your library exists, it allows for other games to be downloaded online, but regardless, dude, like, that is something that they would have to do on top of all the RTX and, you know, stuff that is being promoted here. That would make $700 feel like it's appetizing, but they didn't. They just gave us the most middle of the road sort of upgrade that it possibly can be, which is higher frame rate. The proof is not exactly in the pudding yet because there are some games that are very much exemplary of these issues, like Square Enix games, Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. The best games to show, oh, how much better does this look? Because a lot of the other first-party games do look pretty good, even in performance mode. Like Demon's Souls looks shockingly good in performance mode. I think it's just frustrating, right? I think it is a little arrogant and it's a little frustrating. It almost feels like it's taking advantage of the situation too, of just like everything being really expensive. And instead of there being a little bit of like common sense and cohesion, it just feels like it's sort of taking advantage of an already existing situation where people have already been taken advantage of economically, right? Everything's just so fucking expensive. I think that's my stand on it right now. I think I'm personally looking forward to how the hell Rebirth is going to look primarily and future games. And there's the other big part. Bro, why did they only show us stuff that is like 1 to 4 years old? I don't understand that. If there was a brand new game, a new experience, and you accompanied this with that, and then you showed us, oh, here's what games really look like with your PS5 Pro. I did see that Rebirth is getting some stuff. They talked about it. So of course it's going to be one of the first things that I jump to is throwing that game back in and just oohing and awing at how it looks at 60 FPS, how the performance pro mode works. I'm genuinely curious because, you know, if this is happening first and this is coming out in what, November, then who knows? God knows how long the PC version is going to be. You know, I hope it gets announced at the Game Awards, but that's pretty much where I'm at right now. That's like, I'm standing my ground where I do not think this is something that the majority of people are going to find appetizing. I'm fairly sure this is how most people reacted. I haven't had a chance to watch the reactions. I just saw the price and I was just like, damn. I would be very surprised if a lot of the receiving audience to this promotion, to this system, is taking this positively. I don't see how a $699 price point in any way can be construed as a positive, where it's like, oh, I gotta get that. No, this is for people like me that will go reach the upper echelons of what current technology and hardware is doing, and I'm willing to spend that because I'm putting on a show. If I was in any other situation, a normal consumer doing, dude, hell no. Hell no.